And today I'm going to show you how I made a card with the Beautifully Happy stamp set. And this is one of the celebration options from Stampin' Up! That's available now through the end of February with orders of $100 or greater. So this is one of the kind of, I don't know, higher value, I guess, items on the celebration list. And sorry that I'm moving the screen around here a little bit, trying to, to get it centered and somewhat straight and hopefully not too crazily crooked for the remainder of the video. So, hey Carol, thanks for hopping in today. I appreciate you being here. So it's a pretty simple card, which kind of that's my style. I mean, I like it quick and pretty and, you know, easy to replicate. So, excuse me. All of a sudden I started coughing. I don't even know. All right. So this is the card. I made it with the Beautifully Happy stamp set. And as I said, this is one of the celebration items from the celebration brochure that's available for free with an order of $100 or greater during celebration, which ends on February 28th. Hang on. I got to get a drink. I haven't coughed all day, and all of a sudden I go to start a video, and now I'm hacking my head off. So, all right, so this is a stamp set. It's very pretty, very easy to use. It's one of those that is full of polymer. Goodness, what is up? So it's quick and easy to stamp with. And all right, let's get going. A couple other things that I used on this. I used the scalloped, hey Karen and Nora and Drew, thanks for hopping in. I appreciate you being here. You think hollyhocks? I have no idea what flowers they are. I just know they're pretty. So one of the other items that I used in this card is the second from the largest of the scalloped rectangles here from the Scalloped Contours dies. And this is one of those items from the annual catalog, and it has got a coordinating stamp set, and I should know the name of it off the top of my head, but I don't. But it's a great die set. Even if you don't have the coordinating stamps, I love the layering of the rectangles on this one. And then one of the other things that I used, and these have been on back order for kind of a long time. They're supposed to be back in stock, hopefully in mid-February in the US. And these are the Stylish Shapes dies. And I used the little banner, kind of the thicker, wider, thicker, narrower, whatever, wider, narrower banner die to cut out the sentiment. So it looks like Mitzi from Michigan and Judith is here. And I know I hate it when I cough. And of course, it's like I haven't coughed all day and I start talking and all of a sudden I'm like dying. Okay, enough about that. Hopefully I won't keep doing it. So, hey, Gina Marie, glad you're joining today. I've got a couple things to talk about before we get going. There's a joining promotion during Celebration 2, and it is like the best deal that Stampin' Up! Has ever had since I've been a demonstrator. There are 3 options to join, and they're all great deals. So it just kind of depends on what option that works best for you. The first 2 options, option 1 and option 2, is you pay $129 plus tax if that applies in your area, and you get to pick $175 worth of your choice of Stampin' Up! Merchandise from the either of the 2 current catalogs, and you're going to get either the boho blue or the white mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, which that is an awesome deal. And then if you don't need or want the mini Cut and Emboss machine, they still have the great deal at $99. Again, ships for free. It's you'll pay tax on the $99 if that applies in your area, and you get $175 worth of your choice of merchandise. It's awesome. You're going to get some catalogs, and then you get to be part of our awesome Stampin' Up! Team. So if you have questions about this, questions about joining, I would love to talk with you more about it. Love to have you come join our team. There's no stress, no pressure in our little group. We're just kind of happy stampers and happy shoppers. So, all right. And I see Karen is here from Utah, and Pam and Karen Finkel's here. And so, yay, glad y'all are joining, and Susan as well from Wisconsin. All right, so let's get going on the card. So I started with, it at one point was a full piece of the Fancy Floral 6x6 Designer Series paper, and it's actually the same piece. So this is how it started out, only it was a ½ inch longer, or 3/4 of an inch longer, because this is a 6x6 Designer Series paper. I knew I wanted to use this piece on the front of the card, and then I was trying to decide which piece is kind of layered nicely with it. I'm like, wait a minute, the back side of it layers perfectly. So you can take one piece of the Designer Series paper and cut it into 3 2-inch strips, and then trim off the bottom at the same length, and then you got your whole card front, and it's pretty awesome. So, hey Kathy, glad you're joining from Texas as well. So, all right, so that is how I got how I arrived at this and got to these pieces. I did use Calypso Coral as the card base. I kind of went back and forth on what color to use. This is technically, I think, a shade of Calypso Coral. It's a very light shade of Calypso Coral that is in this designer series paper. But I went ahead and went with Calypso Coral. You could do probably pale papaya might work. Or if you just wanted to do a white card base, that would work as well. So, hey, Debbie, thanks for hopping in from Florida. So I'm going to take liquid glue. And again, I've cut this. Again, it was the same piece of paper. I actually trimmed it off. It was a 1/2 inch, not 3/4 of an inch. So cut it down to a 5.5 by 6 inch panel and then just cut it into 3 2-inch pieces. And I'm just going to adhere these to the card front with a little bit of liquid glue. All right, and I'm going to try not to stick my fingers in it and get it flipped over here and stuck on the card front. And hopefully lined up fairly straight and along the score line. My original card was a top fold card, so it's the 4 1/4 by 11 and scored at 5.5. The card that I'm showing you here, I used the standard book fold card because I know some of you don't love the top fold cards, so I figured I'd show you that this design will work with either one. So this is just your standard 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4 right down the middle card base. All right, so there is a gap here in the middle of the two pieces of designer paper, but nobody will see it, so don't panic. It'll all be good. We'll be covering it up in just a second. So again, this is the centerpiece from that designer series paper. And I'm just going to put liquid glue on the back of that. And then we're going to adhere that to a piece of soft succulent cardstock. And that measures about 2 1/8 by about 5.5. And just going to stick them together here and try to get it lined up fairly straight. Like I said, I'm not a big lover of liquid glue because I usually end up stuck to everything with it. I usually use Stampin' Seal, but sometimes it is nice to have that little extra wiggle room in here when you're sticking something together, and especially if it goes end to end, I find it's a little easier to have just an extra second of wiggling it around to make sure it's all straight before it's stuck down forever. But I am going to use Stampin' Seal and Stampin' Dimensionals pretty much on everything else moving forward. All right, so I've got this piece, layered piece, and I'm just going to take this and I'm going to put the seam of the card base right down the center. Again, it should be lined up pretty well straight here. And then I'm just going to, again, it doesn't need to be perfectly lined up, but that center line on my grid paper will just give me an idea of where center is, and hopefully I can get it lined up fairly straight here on the card front and fairly centered. So, hey Cindy, what is the name of the designer series paper? Karen is asking. I have it right here. It is actually the Fancy Flora 6x6 designer series paper pack. It is in one of the suites, and I cannot remember which one. It's the something Flora. I can't remember. It's one of the suites. It's the one that's got the big flowers in it. Well, there are a lot of big flowers, but I can't remember the name of it. It's a suite from the mini catalog. So, hey, Vicki, thanks for hopping in from Arizona. So it is a really good pack. It's one of those that looks like it was painted, hand painted, and then they photographed it. So it's pretty paper. So two-tone Flora. I knew it was Flora something, Karen, and you're always here to save me and fix it when I'm like, I don't know, I can't remember. So, all right. I've got a piece of basic white cardstock. You'll want it to be about, about 4 inches by about 5 1/4. Again, this is a little oversized because it was just a piece that I had left over. And I've got Evening Evergreen ink, and I've got the larger image from the Beautifully Happy stamp set. And depending on which way you want this to land on your card front, I wanted it to be angled a little bit from up, tilted a little bit to the right, I guess is what I'll say. So that was kind of how I stamped it on here. And because the paper is a little bit oversized, I can definitely, stamp it kind of however and then move my die around. So I just wanted to make sure it was angled ever so slightly so that the die would fit around it correctly when I went to cut it out. So again, that was Evening Evergreen ink that I used for that one. And you got this. It's a really pretty stamp set. I love it. So all right, Calypso Coral is what I'm using for the flower image. So, and I'm just going to ink it up. And then this is the only sort of challenging part. The nice thing, Stampin' Up! Has made it a few things that are easy to line up on here. There's the flower center, and then I usually just kind of look at the edge of the flowers and the flower center, which of course has got a glare on it for my lights right now. and then put it down on the paper. Sometimes it's lined up perfectly, sometimes it's not, and it's okay either way. So as long as you get it relatively close, it's all good. And then I've got the leaves here, and then the little, I don't know, buds or greenery or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to use soft succulent ink for those. So the larger leaves here, again, same way. I'm just going to take it, ink it up, and again, I'm not going to stress out too much about making sure that it's stamped exactly perfectly. I just kind of generally want to get it in the direction of the where it's supposed to go. So, call it Regency Park. Oh, yeah, it's not Regency Park. That one I do know. And I think hopefully I didn't just stick. Oh, I didn't. I thought I stuck my card base right into the ink. Ugh, not that I've done that before. All right, so then this is the little greenery image, and again, we got the one little greenery piece here that will fit on this one, and then I usually line up the top ones up here and this one. And that's usually, if you can get at least 2 pieces of it lined up, the rest of it's going to fall into the spots where it needs to be. So it's a pretty easy stamp set to stamp with. Obviously, if you're using really dark colors, you may have a little more trouble lining it up, but usually I use the outline a little darker and then inside a little lighter, and that works well for me. So can't wait to get the Regency Park Suite. That's a pretty one too. And actually, well, I didn't do this originally on my first card, and then I was looking at it, I'm like, you know, I should have used the little splattery look and stamped it around. So I think I'm going to stamp it a few times in soft succulent ink around it for this card. And I may go back and try to add it on the card front, but I didn't want to add it after I'd put it all together because I was afraid I'd end up with a big goofy mess because I've done that before where I've tried to come back in and stamp something like that later, and it doesn't work very well for me. So I think maybe I'll put, I don't know. I knew when I started it, I'm like, oh, I'll put on one and then it'll be too many and too few, and then I'll, so, all right. I think I'll do one more down here. Oh, all right. I think it bounced just so. Yikes. I think it bounced just so that it missed. Phew. Okay. Then I think it's time to put that away after that little stunt. No more dots. I don't need to have that all over the place. All right, then I've got the flower center and pale papaya ink. I'm going to go ahead and ink up the little flower center with that. And the flower center, the flower center is larger than the actual flower center in the image, so you don't have to be very careful with that one at all. All right, phew, I agree. Penny, I'm like, oh, sweating for a minute. So, all right, I'm going to grab my dies now. Again, this is the Scallop Contours dies, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut out around my little flower. And again, I did the paper a little oversized, knowing that I may need to tilt it one way or the other just a little bit, which I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to cut it out about like that. When you put this through the die cutting machine, this is one of the larger dies. It doesn't have a super flat edge on it, but it's flat enough that you want to put it through at just a bit of an angle so that the rollers don't catch it straight on, and then you'll have the big bump over the die. It works a little bit better if you put it actually through the die cutting machine just at a little bit of an angle, and then it goes through much smoother. So hang on, I will be right back. And Penny says that she likes the color combo. I totally stole it from the Designer Series paper pack. That's how I get a lot of the color combinations that I use is, let Stampin' Up! Do all the work on figuring out what looks best together, and then I just steal their ideas. So, color and contour set, yes. See, Karen's always there, always fixing, because I'm like, I don't know, I can't remember. So, hey, Janice, thanks for joining today. I'm glad you're hopping in. All right, I'm going to use some Stampin' Dimensionals to adhere this to the card front. And, well, they're my half Stampin' Dimensionals. I chopped mine in half right down the middle. So, have those dies. All right, so you're going to be able to make this then. So, hopefully you've got the designer paper or one that will work too. That's the one nice thing about the designer papers, especially on a card like this, is you could totally mix and match and make it be whatever color combination you wanted it to be. So if you liked a different piece of paper or wanted to use up several pieces of paper from that pack, you definitely could kind of take any color combination because there are a couple different ones in there. So, all right, there we go. Got that stuck down over the center. Next thing is I've got a little bit of the, this is soft succulent open weave 3/8 inch ribbon. And again, this is one of those items from the annual catalog, and I'm gonna take this, and Karen, you're gonna have to look away because I totally forgot my ribbon scissors today. So I'm gonna hack it with my paper snips. And it actually cut it pretty nicely for a change. Normally I'm like hacking and sawing on it. So, all right, I'm gonna grab Stampin' Seal. Whoops, that's not what I wanted, Stampin' Seal. And I'm gonna put a little bit of it, come on now, a little bit of it on the card front. And then I'm gonna take my little ribbon, put it into a V, and then stick it right over the top of the adhesive that I have here. And the only thing I'm thinking is I hope I didn't cut that too short. Let me check my die. Phew, it'll work. Okay. As I had a moment of, I think that looks smaller than my other one, but I think we're good. So, all right, so I've got this. Last thing we have for the card front is to stamp the sentiment. So let me get this out of the way. Can I drop anything else today? I'm not really sure. Thinking that maybe I can. Okay, so I've got the sentiment. Again, this is from that same Beautifully Happy stamp set and Versamark ink, and I have got a piece of Calypso Coral cardstock. And I'm just going to ink up with Versamark ink, try to make sure it's good and inky. Stamp it here on my little scrap of Calypso Coral cardstock. And then I'm going to grab my white embossing powder, and we're going to heat emboss this. And somebody was harassing me the other day out on Instagram saying that I needed to refill my white embossing powder. I don't know. I think there's plenty in there. It probably could use a little bit more, but it still works. There's plenty in there to stamp with. So, all right, take that little extra fleck off here that I've got stuck. All right, yeah, sprinkle it one more time, probably get more flecks. All right, I think we're good. Then let me get this out of the way and close up the lid before I start up the heat tool, because I have blown embossing powder all over with that before, and it's not very much fun to clean that all up. So I've got the Stampin' Up! Heat tool, and if you've seen my videos before, you've probably heard me do my spiel on it as the heat tool is warming up. I usually tell you that there's a level 1 setting on there for heat emboss, or for heat embossing, for drying. So if you have watercoloring or something that takes a little longer to dry and you want to speed it up, the level 1 setting is perfect for that. The level 2 setting works for heat embossing. It does get a little bit hotter, but it does take a second for the heat tool to heat up. So I usually do my little talk and tell you about the heat tool as it's heating up. So I'm going to turn it towards my project here. Whoop. And hopefully, there we go. And then you can see it starts to turn that bright white and kind of shiny. And that's when you know that it's done cooking that section of it. All right. There we go. You also don't want to overheat your embossing powder because you can burn it. And yep, been there, done that way too many times. And then it turns brown and icky and not very pretty. And you also want to give it just a second to cool off before you do any die cutting or anything with it, because you can also smear it, because it is, I mean, it's a little bit damp when you get done heat embossing it. And if you touch it right away, you'll smear it. And again, ask me how I know, because I've done all these things. So, all right. So I'm going to grab from the Stylish Shapes dies. I'm going to take the wider, shorter banner die, and I'm going to run that through the die cutting machine, so I'll be off screen for just 1 second while I do that. Oh, thanks, Deborah. I'm glad you're liking the card. So. All right, and we're back with the sentiment here. And I'm going to bring my card front back over, or my entire card, I guess it's not just the card front, my card back over. And we're going to grab some Stampin' Dimensionals, and I'm going to put them on here, and I'm going to slide them out so that they're very close to the edge of the die cut, because I want to make sure that at least some of the adhesive sticks on the card front and that it's not all just sitting on top of the ribbon, because the ribbon, unfortunately, is not very stably attached. I mean, it's attached, but I'm afraid if I just stuck the sentiment to the ribbon that it would probably come right off when someone pulled it out of the envelope, and I don't want that to happen. All right, so I'm going to take this, and we are going to stick it here over the top of the ribbon. Try to get it stuck on straight. There we go. All right, and again, I can tell that it's caught on the paper up here and here. Down here, it's sitting on top of the ribbon. Up here, it's a little bit on the paper, so all good. It'll stay down. The last thing that I put on the card front was were a couple of the iridescent pearl gems, iridescent pastel. I can't even read iridescent pastel gems, and these are Calypso coral, and I think it's balmy blue and maybe clear. I'm not sure what color they even are calling them all, but I knew it was Calypso coral for this one, so I'm going to grab a couple of these. I'm going to take one of the bigger ones and tuck it up here near the sentiment. Another one of the bigger ones, tuck it over here near the edge. And then a smaller one, and we'll tuck it over here, kind of next to the sentiment. And that's it for the card front. So super simple. And this stamp set is so easy to use and so pretty, I think. That's my favorite. Like I said, I do love all the flowers. I know some people don't love them, but I do. I'm a huge flower fan, so I can't help myself. All right. For the inside of the card, kept it pretty basic. That little 1/2-inch piece that I trimmed off the bottom of the Designer Series paper before I started, I kept, thank goodness, and I'm actually going to stick it across the inside of the card so that it all matches, and I've used up that entire piece of Designer Series paper, and I'll only have a 1/2-inch by 2-inch strip that I will have wasted off the whole sheet of paper. Otherwise, it's all used up, and I won't feel sad about it. So, all right, so let's get this stuck down here. Just use the little Stampin' Seal, and I'm going to trim off the little excess piece here. All right, that's the extent of my fussy cutting skills. And then I'm going to stick this to the inside of the card, and it's going to be all done and ready to go. All right. There we go. All right, so that's the inside of the card, pretty quick and easy on the inside. And then I'm going to grab the bone folder, give it a little crease here along the edge, and we're done. So this is the card I made ahead of time. This is the one we made today. I don't know, I actually kind of am liking the little polka dotties on it. I may have to go try and stick them on this one. Hopefully I won't make a mess. If I do, I guess I have this one I can use. So that's it for my card today. I appreciate you all being here. Thanks so much for joining me on a Friday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll plan to be back here live on YouTube around 2 o'clock Eastern Time on Tuesday, and then again around 2 o'clock Eastern Time next week, Friday. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a wonderful weekend. Let me know if you have any questions about the joining promotion or celebration or anything like that. All the details for this card, the cardstock cuts, printable PDF tutorial to show you how I made it. All that stuff will be on my blog tomorrow, and I will link it up in the description of this video so you can go find it over there if you want to take a peek tomorrow. So thanks again for being here. I appreciate you all. Have a great weekend.